Now we need to get to breaking news. Israel's Minister of Energy and Infrastructure says Israel will cut off electricity to Gaza, quote, immediately. Today's announcement comes just a week after Israel started blocking goods going into Gaza, including food, fuel, and medicine for the more than 2 million people there. Joining me now is ABC News' Lama Hassan, along with ABC News national security and defense analyst and former Deputy Assistant Secretary of Defense for the Middle East, Mick Mulroy. Lama, I want to begin with you. How is this going to impact the people of Gaza who are already in desperate need?
Yeah, you're absolutely right, Phil. We are in the holy month of Ramadan, when Muslims fast until sunset, and that's when they break their fast. And as you said, Israel cut off humanitarian aid a week or so ago, which the Palestinians in Gaza depend on heavily. This is desperately needed aid. And now with the electricity switched off, it's unclear how much of an effect this will actually have on Gazans. They have had practically no electricity to begin with since the war started, but still, you can imagine how difficult it is going to be for them. And the reason Israel is doing this is to try to put pressure on Hamas to free the remaining hostages without beginning the negotiations to get to phase 2, which so far hasn't worked. So my feeling is that this will actually exacerbate an already difficult and desperate situation, Phil.
And Lama, Hamas has met with officials in Egypt. What more do we know about various negotiations that were happening there to get into phase 2? Because if memory serves correct, right before this happened, Israel had said to Hamas, let's extend phase 1 so that we can cover Ramadan, and that was rejected. So what's happening now?
Yeah, so look, I think it's safe to say that things were already precarious between the two sides, between Hamas and Israel. And as you just said, phase 1 of the ceasefire deal ended with no real effort to get to the next phase. Israel wants to extend the first phase of the deal to continue the exchange of hostages, but without any commitment to permanently ending the war. And of course, Hamas opposes this. They want to start negotiations as soon as possible. The talks, we know that a delegation from Hamas is engaging in ceasefire talks in Cairo with Egyptian mediators and of course with the help of Qatari officials. We know that an Israeli delegation is going to Doha. So I guess at the moment, we'll just have to wait and see what happens, Phil.
Okay, Lama. And Mick, how do you think this latest action from Israel is going to impact these ongoing ceasefire talks?
So, Phil, this takes a very critical, desperate society in Gaza to the brink of collapse, quite frankly. They have no capacity to make the food that they need for over 2 million people. And now with cutting off electricity, there's not likely a way to make clean water. So the very essence of what people need, water, clean water, is going to be no longer available. So this is going to really put a lot of pressure, I think, on Hamas, certainly on the population in Gaza, to potentially extend the first phase of the ceasefire agreement, which would likely go back to the increased humanitarian aid coming in, hostages coming out, and, of course, prevent the starting of the fighting again. But this is a big step. It is likely to cause a lot of controversy, as this could seriously impact innocent civilians in Gaza.
Innocent civilians as well. The situation could go from bad to worse. But how about the hostages, Mick? What response could we see here from Hamas, who earlier this week already threatened to kill the remaining hostages?
Well, that's the issue. I mean, these hostages, of course, are under dire circumstances already. And now with humanitarian aid and electricity cut off, it's likely that their conditions will go down as well, just like everybody else in Gaza. Of course, if they being Hamas, kills all the hostages, then they have zero leverage going forward. That's why they kept these hostages, and obviously they should not have taken them in the first place. But that's what they consider their only leverage. So they have an interest in making sure that these individuals stay alive. But this is certainly a step up by Israel to put pressure on Hamas to extend the first phase of the ceasefire, because Israel doesn't want to go to the second phase. They have no alternative for the IDF and security in Gaza, and none has really been proposed. So they don't want to see the full withdrawal of their forces without that being decided, without a force that they would be acceptable to them going into place.
All right, Mick Mulroy, Lama Hassan, thank you both very much.